York County is so much more than just a stop for gas on I-80. 17 County is filled with unique individuals with unique stories just waiting to be told. Welcome to the 17 County Podcast with your host, Emily Perry.
This is 17 County Podcast. Thank you for tuning in for today's episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and listen. This helps our podcast grow, and we thank you for your continued support. We would also like to take the time to thank our York County Development Corporation members, Agri-Products, Cornerstone Bank, Nebraska Public Power District, and Central Valley Ag. Without these great members, we wouldn't be able to focus on the growth and development of York County here at the YCDC. So thank you. Let's get to the podcast. Okay, so today I have Ryan Lueck joining me from CVA. He is the talent coordinator there, so get to meet a lot of new people, a lot of new faces. So thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so you kind of have an interesting background, an interesting story. You're originally from not Nebraska, but Maryland, right?
Correct. It's definitely a little bit different from most people in the area. I was actually born in West Virginia, small town called Charleston, and my first memory ever, I remember looking up and just seeing an orange carpeted staircase. And that, I mean, I don't have any context to it, but when I talked to my mom, she had told me that was the house that I grew up in, originally in West Virginia. But I went through K through 12 in Maryland, graduated in high school in 2015. From there, I went to work full time and college full time, and also joined the Air Guard part time. So I stayed busy for quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely. What brought you to Nebraska?
Well, I'm gonna have to rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
From the Air Guard. I got deployed in 2018, and when I returned from that, I knew that I was a little bit different, kind of needed some adjusting. So I spent some time with my sister in Colorado, and while I was there in Colorado, I met my now wife Hannah, and she's from Clay Center, Kansas. So
Oh, wow.
we got married in Colorado. The day after we got married, we went on a road trip back to Maryland. So not too much of a honeymoon, but
Geez, go, right?
what better way to spend time with each other than 24 hours in the car?
Yeah.
So that was super exciting. And when we had our first kid, we wanted to be closer to her family in Clay Center. So I started looking at different opportunities, and CVA offered me a job, and super happy to be there.
Yeah, so CVA has a lot of different locations, I guess. I don't know a better word for that. Where are you stationed out of?
So I'm stationed out of the headquarters in York, Nebraska. We do have 80 locations across 3 different states. And while I have an office in York, I look over and assist all the locations from about Grand Island to Seward. And then as far north as Shelby, and as far south as Seward is probably as far south as we go before we hit the Kansas border.
Okay, well, so you get plenty of traveling, I'm assuming, plenty of driving. So you work with talent and coordinating and hiring to an extent. Explain how you kind of got into that role and what drew you to that kind of position.
Well, how I got into the role was my job previously. I was a full-time recruiter for the Air Guard out in Maryland. So that kind of built some baseline experience for me. And the difference between being a recruiter in Maryland for the Air Guard was full-time recruitment. That was all my focus was. Whereas my job now as a talent coordinator is a combination of absolutely that recruiting aspect, but then there's also the retention, employee engagement, working with our employees, and everything from helping them with day-to-day questions to hard questions that come up, whether it's financial questions or questions about life, or like, what do you think about getting a dog? Well, have we thought about where is it going to live? Do you have somebody to watch it when you're not there? I mean, sometimes they're simple, sometimes they're hard, and you never know what's about to come in or what you're about to run into when you talk to someone.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because just from personal conversation with you, I know that you have a really big passion for just helping people and making sure that they are achieving their best version of themselves. So that's interesting. And you don't think about with talent coordination and retention, recruitment, whatever, the very day-to-day person stuff, the hard questions, like you said, that you help with. It's like, wow, that's part of your job? Man, crazy. But it makes sense. It all ties together. So let's kind of go the more personal route. Tell me about your family. Is your family originally from Maryland, outside of Nebraska, or is there an origin story there?
We definitely have no ties to Nebraska at all. Funny story, actually, when my wife and I got married, I asked her, I said, if you could live in any state, what would that be? Because, there's only like one or two states that I wouldn't really want to be in. And she said, the only state that I can think of right now that I would prefer not to be in is Nebraska.
Oh no.
And at the time, living in Colorado, coming from Maryland, obviously my geography is not the best. I said, well, that's no problem. I don't even know where that state is. So it's very funny that we ended up here. We're both super happy to be here. This has turned out to be a great state to live in. I mean, really enjoyable from the community aspect to the people, the opportunities, work. There's so many positives to say. Now, with that said, I wouldn't say it's a vacation state by any means. I do miss the mountains looming in the background, but it's such a strong community, and the people around here really make this a great place.
Yeah, absolutely. And that transition from living outside of Nebraska to living in Nebraska had to be interesting, a little bit different. What was it like joining the community?
Coming from Maryland, the culture difference is definitely there. More welcoming, more positive in Nebraska, without a doubt. I think that Nebraska as a state, and really the Midwest, is just kind of centered around being there for your neighbor.
Hmm.
Whereas in a more suburb and city atmosphere in most parts of Maryland, that's not where the focus is all the time. So it's been really great getting to experience multiple cultures and communities to know how good of like, the community that you're in when you find it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I might be a little bit biased, but York County as a whole, I feel like is very much so. How can I help you? We want you to succeed. Like
Mhm.
we want everyone here to feel included and welcomed and thrive and all the things. So I think that you picked a great place to land personally, but I'm a little bit biased. So um why so do you think that there's something about York and York County as a whole that kind of sets it aside? So why York County? You know what I mean? If you were giving a pitch to somebody else that was like, I don't know if I want to be in York or if I want to be in Omaha, I don't
Mhm.
know. What would you say? Why York?
I guess the first question I'd ask them is what are their goals? And if they're looking for wanting to be centered around, a bigger city and being able to have easy places to walk to and not necessarily needing a vehicle every day, then
Mhm.
I probably wouldn't tell them to come to York County. However, if they're looking for their priorities are, where I live and kind of what that looks like is secondary, but the community aspect and the people are primary, then I would absolutely encourage them to consider York County. Everything from you, Emily, at here at the York County Development Center um, with your crew and every business around here has all. I mean, every business obviously is working towards making themselves better, but the
Mhm.
way that they do that is also by working together to make their community better. And that just feeds in a circle. They're working to make their community better. The community is working to make the companies better. And it continually feeds into each other and it makes both of them just progress at an outstanding rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And collaboration is so important. And I think that's something that we at the YCDC really push because we can't do it alone. We would love to do as much as we can, but the reality of it, when you drill it down, it takes a village or a community to really get growth and forward movement. So York has been, at least in my experience, very, very helpful and supportive in that way as well. I mean, they want to grow, they want to do well, they want to make this a better place for their grandkids and kids, and that's something that is very admirable.
Mhm.
So, um, Let's talk about free time. Is there any place in York County that you're like, oh man, if you're driving through or you're just moving here, you have to visit, you have to stop here, or an event, anything like that?
Free time for me is still something that I'm rediscovering,
Same.
having a 15-month, almost 16-month-year-old.
Yeah.
I used to have more free time, and now a lot of that is devoted into spending time with him. His bedtime's around 7 o'clock, so that kind of ties us down a bit. But I mean, I would say some notable places to go. Local coffee shops. I mean,
Hmm.
one, great coffee. Two, the people that you interact with. If you can't tell, I'm very people focused, no matter
Yes.
no matter what we're talking about. I also think that the community center offers a lot to people that are local. Everything from their fun city. I mean, my 15, 16-month-year-old loves it, absolutely loves it, and they have a ton of great stuff. To even as me, I mean, having a full-size pool to swim in, and then a gym. I mean, that's been fantastic. I would say if you were going through and you only had one place to stop, I think that chain restaurants do have food that is on par with every other chain restaurant, but try
Mm.
a local place.
Yeah.
I'd say try local. Really enjoy the food that you're going to eat
Hmm.
and be willing to experience something that only York has to offer.
Yeah. And York County has so many really good food places. I mean, there's Carrie's in McCool. There's Chances Are here in town. McLean Beef has some amazing food. There's Hunter's in Waco. I mean, the options are endless. They're all so good. You can't go wrong with really any of them, in my opinion. But do you have a favorite? Like, so you have a kiddo.
Hmm.
Is there a favorite park? Or I know you mentioned the community center, but I know we just got done with Peyton Parker Lane Playground got opened up, and it is phenomenal. If you haven't been there, highly recommend. Side by side play. It's not hard to get around with your little. It's amazing. But then we have the outdoor pool. And have you visited any of those that you're like, oh, that was so much fun, great memories, great experience.
Absolutely. I mean, the outdoor pool is fantastic. We can bring our little one there. We really enjoy that. He enjoys it. Everything from playing with the sprinklers coming out to the shallow waters that he can kind of wade in and just tap his hand on the water and diddle. And then just walking straight across to the Peyton Parker playground. I mean, that is one of the top five playgrounds I think I've ever experienced. And from you can tell that a lot of thought was put into not just from a playground company saying we're going to come in, put this equipment here, and walk out. There was thought that was put in to say how can we make this most accessible and most usable and most enjoyable for kids of a variety of different ages and not have it feel cramped. I mean, even from the rubber tile floor on most
Yeah.
of the playground, I don't have to worry about if he falls and he smashes his head on a rock because everything he's just probably just going to bounce right back up to his feet.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know it gets utilized by a lot of people that may have a disability and don't really get to experience that
Hmm.
anywhere else.
Hmm.
So being able to have that, we're really proud. And the group that fundraised and put it together and did all the planning, amazing group of people. And you can tell how much care and time and thought that they put into it. And I can't rave about it enough. It's an amazing park, amazing people. Just one of the highlights that shows, like I've been saying, collaboration, community support. That's perfect example. It's right there. Perfect example. But yeah, we're very proud. Very proud.
And you should be.
Yes,
Should be.
absolutely. So we kind of touched about what your passion is with helping people
Mhm.
and all of that. Where did that come from?
Some of it I really think is kind of how we were raised as kids. Being the last of the four, so I have three older siblings. One, everything was always my fault growing up.
Of course.
That was always enjoyable to experience. I joke now saying that I got in trouble for the things that I didn't do, but I got away with the things that I did do. So it's kind of fun to joke about that with my mom now. She always had. a lot of conversations, whenever we did something that wasn't right or didn't hold integrity, she kind of made us look at a bigger picture. Who else does this impact?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of look down the lines of you didn't just, get in trouble for 30 minutes.
Mm.
How long did your decision impact those around you? And at the time, it's okay, mom, I just want to start playing a
Yeah,
game. Like
right.
I feel bad for being in trouble. But then as you progress and those questions kind of stick with you and they're asked again when you do something else, you do start to think about that. And I think even now as I get older, I mean, I'm seeing the picture that I have now
Mm.
and the knowledge that I have now, but what is it going to look like 10 years from now? Or as my understanding grows and as I understand more of how my actions impact others. And I got the opportunity, the church that I went to in Maryland went on a couple mission trips, and I had no interest in going. And I was kind of picked up and really encouraged to go on one from more of like a pre-trip to say, hey, come with us on this pre-trip before the actual trip happens to help us plan. And I was thinking, well, cool, I can help plan with that. And this is my eighth grade mindset. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I can help plan and I don't necessarily have to be part of the actual trip. So I went and helped plan. And when we saw the mission trip for our younger group was in West Virginia, a very poor town that really didn't have much. And when I saw all of the different lifestyles and opportunities that we had to go in and help other people and to make their situations better, not just temporarily, but truly long term. For instance, one of the projects was a family with many kids that was just in this really rundown house, and it's like their living situation wasn't great. But for us to go in there and one work with them on a plan, so a long term plan to get them to a stable place, and then also to build on top of that, and then also we helped improve their home by doing a complete remodel for their house. So we helped them with a temporary problem, and then we also didn't just leave after that, but we helped them long term, help to stabilize their situation, and then help them grow. So that kind of hit me as an eighth grader to say how many people are there that are out there, and the ones that we see are just a small fraction.
Mm-hmm.
So of the ones that I can see, how many can I realistically help? So then there's the aspect of, well, I might be able to help random number, let's say 5 in a year. But if I help other people and I help get them to a point where they're stable and they can turn around and help others, then that chain can continue. And then, really it goes back into what I was saying earlier, feed into your community.
Yeah.
When you help them grow, when you help them get to that stage in life where they're able to turn around and help others, then it's helping all the businesses around. So continue to help those around you, and it'll keep growing. And we all want to be in a positive community. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nobody out there saying I want to be in a negative community. Help me find it, right? It's always, man, I wish I could find this group where I could fit in. And
Yeah.
that's awesome. Let's help you find that group. Let's help you get to a place where you can find that or build that yourself if it's not there yet.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that kind of goes into what you were saying earlier as well about your impact can be so much more than you think that it is. I
Absolutely.
mean, this one interaction could have a butterfly effect and last forever for that person and how they interact with other people. And I mean, you can have a lot further reach than you think that you do from simple conversation, even.
My name's Don Freeman II. I'm President and CEO of Agri Products in York, Nebraska. We are a manufacturer of quality equipment, grain handling, food storage, food service. And if you ever want to get a hold of us, you can get on our website or you can contact us at 402 362 5500. Thank you.
Mad respect. I think that's amazing. Um, have you been on any other exciting, interesting trips? I know you said that you went on that mission trip and then you've lived a couple different places and you were active duty. I'm sure you've traveled everywhere. What is the best place that you've been?
The best place that I've been is where my family is.
Mm,
The more that I traveled and got to experience different places and beautiful sights from the mountains in Colorado to, I'm sure somebody likes them, but the deserts in the Middle East, right? And the camels that, the sand would blow so high that it would cover up your barbed wire fence. The camels could just walk right on base, and you're like, oh, well, that's great. It has a herd of camels. What am I supposed to do with this? So not a big fan of the desert. Sand is not a friend of mine. Um, but the favorite location isn't a geographical place for me. It's where do I feel as though I'm part of my family?
Mhm.
Where do I feel like I'm loved by those that are around me, and where do I feel like I love the people that are around me? That's my favorite place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can understand. I mean, we've talked about how you have littles, I have littles, and it's just there, it changes the whole dynamic. I mean, it just changes everything. It's like, oh, I just want to, I don't need to travel. I just want to be home. I want to go to the park. I mean, that's the exciting thing is just watching them grow and learn. And yeah,
I think
it's amazing.
one of the biggest it's one of my biggest mistakes, and also one of my things that I enjoy the most in my life in the past couple of years is buying my own mattress. My first one, right? Growing up, you can kind of sleep on whatever. Well, when I got married, I was like, that's it. We're gonna buy a mattress.
Mhm.
And we tried a lot out. We bought one. I love it. I mean, I love sleeping in my bed. And then somebody brought up camping to me the other day. I was like, ooh, man, my mattress won't be there. My pillow won't be there. I'm like, this has really changed my perspective. So I still enjoy camping, but I now acknowledge that I am leaving my very comfortable bed and my very comfortable pillow.
Yeah.
So
Are you a tent camper?
I've really done everything.
Okay,
You
I'm
know,
like that whole adds a whole other layer with I
um,
am an AC junkie, so I like cold air all the time.
I've slept an actual camper
Hmm.
once, and it was a weird concept to me, moving from a tent to a camper. I'm like, oh, there's a real mattress and there's real AC. Like, this is kind of neat. But previously, I'd either just slept in a tent on the ground.
Mm.
When I was in Colorado, I threw a rooftop tent on my truck.
Oh,
Don't
cool.
know if you ever heard of one of those. They're pretty neat. They
Yeah,
fold up so you can drive through any trails that you want, unfold them, and then you can be on the top of a mountain camping. You don't have to set anything up, and
interesting.
it's a great experience.
Yeah, especially in Colorado.
Oh yeah.
Colorado's gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
So,
It's good when you ask somebody where to go, and instead of telling you a location, they just give you a 10-digit grid and say, this is a good place. And then you have to plug that into the map and find out how to get there.
oh man, I've never done that, but I have done the very touristy trails. That's about it.
Both good
But
experiences.
yeah, now I know that I need to find some locals to guide me to the good spots because that's the way to do it. Find someone that really knows, and then yeah, gotta do
Absolutely.
it. We gotta do it. Um, so now we're gonna do some, we call them hot potato questions, basically this or that. Maybe a little bit more deep questions. So it might not be as quick, but we'll start off with favorite color.
More of like an emerald green,
Okay,
my
good
favorite
choice.
color.
Good choice. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would like to have dinner with my great. Well, I'm not good with family. Let me figure
Okay.
this out. He was with my grandpa. So I never got a chance to meet him. He died before I was like 2 or something. So I never met him in person, but I always got to hear stories from my mom of what he was like and the type of character he was. So I think it would be amazing to have dinner with him. One, just to smile and laugh. Right?
Yeah.
Hear stories of me before I remember them. But
Yeah.
then ask him. I mean, clearly he went through life in a much earlier time frame with different challenges, but how did he keep family and little kids a priority throughout all of that?
Yeah.
That would be great to hear his insight.
Yeah. That would be neat. Yeah. Morning bird or night owl?
If I had to choose between one, I would say morning, but then I would
Really?
also stretch a little bit into the night.
Okay.
So it depends. I can be flexible.
I am not a morning bird. If you see me before 10 o'clock, I am sorry because woof. Um, would you say that you are more of a concert person or the arts person?
Man, well, I wish I was more of an arts person. I
Okay.
think I'm very artistic. I try, but if I
Mhm.
had to choose one or the other, I would say arts. But don't look at any of my drawings. I'm okay with stick figures. Anything beyond that, it's a challenge.
Very fancy, very fancy. I'm sure your stick figures will be up in a
They're on display,
museum.
actually.
Really?
Yeah. All in my imagination, but they're there.
Okay, okay. Yes. Favorite band?
Hmm. Any country singers,
Country?
any country music, doesn't matter.
Okay, okay. Fit in perfectly here in York, Nebraska. We have lots of country fans. So, yes. Um, Favorite destination?
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Yep.
Really? What do you like about it?
Never been.
Okay.
Really want to go. Love the pictures of the mountains that I see. I enjoy skiing, so I would love to go skiing out there. I'm pretty sure I'd be the slowest in Switzerland, but that's okay. I would still enjoy it. And that, I would get more time to look at everything on my way down. So that would be a
What's the point
benefit.
of going fast? Yeah.
I've always, yeah, Switzerland would definitely be at the top of my list of places to go.
Okay. Favorite sport?
For playing or for watching, there's a big difference.
Let's do one of each.
Okay, so for watching, I think that I've recently really enjoyed watching lacrosse.
Interesting.
Yeah. Before I left Maryland, there was ESPN picked up like professional women's lacrosse,
Hmm.
and we got invited to some games in the Air Guard, and I was like, I didn't know what to expect, you know. So I get there, and I didn't realize how intense
Yeah.
one lacrosse was, and then especially on that professional level. Holy smokes!
Really?
Yeah, it
I
was
don't think
crazy to watch.
I don't think I've ever seen it played,
It
honestly.
I'm sure there's a
Interesting.
difference watching it, whether it's on TV versus in person.
Right.
But it really was something that shocked me to say that's freaking awesome. And
Yeah,
if that was around here, I would totally start having my daughter start training for it.
really.
But I think she'd be a team of one. So
Right. Well, my brother-in-law, kind of different, but he played rugby, and that was my first experience with it. And I'm like, that's terrifying. That's like football with no pads. That's scary. My watch picked that up. Um, so yeah, I all these different sports, and it makes you wonder if it's just like is it a Nebraska thing that they're not popular? Do I need to travel and then I can hear more about them and see people that are doing it? I don't know. I don't know. I guess I don't get out much. So favorite sport to play?
I'd say favorite sport to play. Growing up, I had a lot of energy, so I ran track and field,
Mm,
cross country. I really did enjoy that. I thought track, so I was my favorite event was the 4x4 because it
okay.
was a mix of working together as a team, but also having to perform to your best extent as an individual.
Yeah.
I liked the challenge of if I don't do my best as an individual, I'm making my team suffer. So there was always that thought of like when I get tired, I'm not just impacting myself, right? I'm impacting the rest of my team members. And if I stop, why would I expect them to do their best?
Man, life
So
lessons are
there's a
everywhere.
lot going
Jeez.
on in the 4x4, right?
Yeah, didn't think about it. Wow, that's intense. So my girls should do track, is what I'm hearing, and they should do the 4x4. Okay.
If they enjoy it, if they
Yeah,
enjoy it.
right.
There's pain involved too. I think that event made me hurt more than every other event, but
Sure did. I think I ran track in middle school and then high school came and I'm like, maybe this isn't for me. So,
the worst part for me for the 4x4 was it's the last event. So the entire track meet happens, and I get cramps really bad if I eat food before I run,
oh
and I
no.
really enjoy food. I like eating. I mean, it doesn't really matter what. I just enjoy eating food. For those of you that can't see me, I'm about 5'9", 160 pounds, so I have a great metabolism, and that's helped me out quite a bit. No, but that was always a little bit of torture knowing that everybody else is done around me and they're eating like the concession stand pizza and the pretzels and the Chick-fil-A sandwich, and here I am like nibbling on a banana.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was a swimmer and competitive swimming I think is kind of similar because the relays are at the end. Unless you do IM, you brave souls. But the relays were at the end, and yeah, just sitting around, and everyone's like, "I'm done, and I'm gonna go take a nap," and I'm like, "I'm nervous because I'm about to go." But yeah, no, it's so much fun. And you're right, like the relay mixed with the personal one, improving yourself. I mean, you still take your leg time, and yeah, it's intense. It's a lot, and a lot of life lessons that I never even thought about. So
They're
thank
all
you.
in play.
Thank you. So I think we're gonna get ready to wrap up, but before we go, so let's say that you are trying to give a sales pitch for York. What would you tell people?
I would tell people, one, again, going back to the question, I'm never going to go into a sales pitch blinded. So I'm going to ask them, what's important to you? And if they tell me that, well, I really want to be around a solid gym, or I have littles and I want good playgrounds to play at, and that's what I would focus on. I would say, well, first off, we don't just have one playground. We have several great playgrounds with one super amazing one, right?
Yeah,
That's
right.
brand new. And if your kids like water, I mean, there are multiple places, whether it's Recharge Lake to the outdoor pool to the indoor pool. I mean, lots of different opportunities in a pretty close area.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beauties of York, that while it's in my mind a smaller town in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, but they have so many different locations to go. There's not a park that everybody goes to. There are several parks that you can kind of choose and be like, well, I've gone here the last month with my kid and it's starting to get a little stale. Let's go to a new one. Let's try a different slide or a different swing. Like, we have that opportunity. So that's fantastic. And if somebody said that, part of the thing that's important to me is I want to be around a university, and I also, like me, I enjoy eating food, right? Well, then we go back to the local restaurants, whether it's Chances Are or McLean Beef. And then we also have York University right here in our doorstep, who are just as involved in the community as everybody else.
Yeah.
They don't seclude themselves. They're side by side everybody. And then, for me, obviously, there's the working aspect. Part of the reason why I came to Nebraska, just Central Valley Ag. When I was looking at job opportunities, I had a lot of different offers, a few different offers. I don't want to make that sound like I had the world in between. In the interview stages, Central Valley Ag really stood out to me just in terms of like positive culture. And I remember joking with my wife, and I'm like, this is gonna be really funny if the interview's great and I start working for them and that culture is not positive. So I get there, I have no ag background, nothing. And what do I do when I'm working for an ag company with no ag background? Well, I ask questions. Every single day, I'm asking more questions, and they're now starting to get a little bit more detail oriented. But they started out with, I went to one of our customer service specialists at our York East location. And I said, hey, I need help. And I said, could you give me like an elementary understanding? I understand that there's something that goes through the field and it runs over things and it's got fingers on the front. What's going on? And my now understanding, thanks to her, is that it's a combine with a corn head, or you could have a bean head on it, depending on what the crop is. And this is how it works. And then she took it a step further and says, do you want to see? Well, absolutely, right? Is that an option? And I think that for York to have that opportunity, for coming, whether it's the YCDC to say, I've got an idea, or can you help me understand this? There's not just the on paper, well, let's watch a YouTube video, right?
Yeah.
No, let's go hands on. Let's see. We have connections to see that. And at York County, to me, that stands out, above and beyond a lot of different communities. Because instead of just going through that online course, or, well, here's a book that I think you should read, it's, when do you have time? When are you free? I'll take you out. I'll connect you with the people that have that equipment, that have that knowledge, and can teach you hands-on, and then you can make a more informed decision from there on what you want to do.
Yeah.
So that would be my sales pitch for York County.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I might make a little commercial out of it. It's very good. And I will just do one last shameless plug for the YCDC, but we want people to come in here and feel welcome and feel like they can come to us about, even if they're like, I kind of like making t-shirts and kind of thought about making it a business, but I don't know. We want them to come in here because, like you said, we can connect them with the right people, and we want you to. I mean, heck yeah, if you like doing this and you're good at it, then please do. I mean, we want to see you succeed, and we want to see you doing something that you love. So yeah, just shameless plug. If you ever want to chat, please let us know. You can reach us at 402-362-3333. Thank you, Ryan, so much for joining me. It was enlightening to hear about your story, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, thank you, Emily. I appreciate your time.
In closing, we would like to once again take the time to thank our members, the people that help us drive change. We would like to thank York State Bank, Henderson State Bank, York General, Meade Lumber Company Incorporated, and York News Times. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. Catch you next time.